Oh, we're live. Oh, the countdown. Guess who wasn't looking at the countdown? Me. It was me. It was J-Man. Hello. Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the live episode of Jams. We're bloody here. And look, it's my guest, Fee. Welcome, Fee. Hello. Woo. What the heck? What are you doing here, Fee? What are you doing, mate?
I'm here to talk music. I'm here
What?
to talk a little bit of music.
Doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to talk music? That doesn't make any sense, Fee. What?
I don't know. I just decided, fuck it, and I'm just gonna straight.
We're just gonna go straight at it. Hell yeah. But anyway, I think we can get started now, Fee. Are you happy to get started, my friend?
Kick us off. Lead us around. Where are we starting? What we get into?
I think always a good question to always start with is, so I know that you are quite passionate about music for the most part. We've had a lot of good chats about like many different types of bands. So when I asked you, hey, come on do an episode of Jams with me, I want you choose any album you like. I was surprised that it was this album because it wasn't one that we've really talked about much prior to you sort of bringing it up. So why did you choose this album?
Well, interestingly enough, Steam Powered Giraffe is not my favorite band. They are one of my favorites for sure, but not my favorite. It's because I respect them more as just musicians, but as full-blown artists. Like, one thing I would like to really focus on for this conversation is that they are seekers of art, not just creating music as an art form, but they branch into many different forms of art. And, that's wonderful, awesome, and cool to see.
Yeah.
The Vice Quadrant specifically, which we'll be discussing today, was a super awesome project because beyond just being an album, it is an entire space opera, which is a sci-fi rock opera.
Yeah, with a lot of other media surrounding it as well.
Oh, yes, indeed. There is a comic to accompany it, as well as a comprehensive timeline to help those who aren't necessarily picking up on what they're letting down,
Yeah, so instead of talking about an album that you just like, maybe one of your favorite albums of all time, you've chosen this one, which is something you still enjoy. But is that sort of why you've chosen it? Because there are so many different like aspects to it where it's very different from really any other album.
I will say, like, it is one of my favorite albums of all time, but not necessarily musically saying, but just like from an appreciative standpoint, it's definitely one of my favorites. And I enjoy the story it tells, as well as like the journey it takes you on. It's more than just sitting down listening to music. It's an adventure.
Yeah, you definitely feel that, and especially with its long track listing. So it is in part like it's two parts of an album. Sorry, the album is split up into two different parts, and it goes for over 2 hours, beginning to end, which is very daunting. As an outsider coming into this, that's very daunting to have such a long sort of album. So is that where you justify it, you think, because it has such a story to tell? It's maybe why it is such a long album.
I mean, it kind of needs to be long. There's a lot of a lot of beats that they need to cover and go across before they can make the full comprehensive story kind of make any lick of sense. Of course, all the songs like can stand alone, be decent in and of themselves, and are classic and good SPG tracks. It's just when they're all put together and compiled in this format, it does create like a bit of a nice whole. It really does kind of blend together into a nice complete being. It needed to be long.
Like what keeps you coming back to it?
Well, to be honest, as much as I just enjoy Steam Powered Giraffe, a lot of it is like a feeling of a bit of local pride.
Okay, yeah.
Given that I'm based out of like Los Angeles here in sunny Southern California, the band's inception and majority of their work and whatnot has been done in San Diego, California, where the Bennett twins are from. The Bennett twins being the main roles and cast members of Steam Powered Giraffe, that being Isabella Bennett and David Bennett, or they're what's the word I'm looking
identical?
for? Solo cats. Yeah, yeah, they're identical twins. Yeah.
I didn't know that until like reading up on it today. I didn't know that they were identical. Like even looking, I guess they had a lot of makeup and all that. I guess on, but like even like in their older recordings, I just thought they were like clearly like brother and sister. But yeah, I didn't think they were identical. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
There you
Identical twins. Yeah.
go. And but yeah, so with that, being not too far away from, have you ever seen them live or?
Unfortunately, not. I don't get the opportunity to go out much to see shows. Majority of the
Yeah.
shows I have gone out to see were like really, really, really small things like, hey, there's this no-name band playing
Mm.
at this random bar, and we're just
Yeah.
gonna rock up and go there
Yeah.
and see this show and get a drink or something like that, you know.
Right. Okay. So it's a bit different. Yeah. Than going out and seeing someone that you probably already know, instead of just sort of going out and seeing
Big
smaller
difference
bands.
being it's free, so
There you go. I got it all. That also. It's a bit of a difference. But yeah. So if you look as any like any outsiders that might be watching this live or like listening to this, what's the best way to describe this band to somebody?
Steam Powered Giraffe is the very first automaton band. You know, scrap what you see at your Chuck E. Cheese and all that jazz. Boo, get rid of that. These are the
Mm-hmm.
singing automatons from wait, no, what were they? From 1956. Built for your enjoyment. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go, baby. These steam powered robots built for war have since laid down their weapons and picked up some instruments to give us a good old time.
Did you have that written down? Your promo skills
No.
are just amazing. It's you almost went for a little bit of like like spine. You know, how every time he does a YouTube video, he always starts it off. It was very much like, "Hi, like I can't do the spine. Can you do a good spine impression and try to explain what I'm trying to
Oh,
express?"
I am the spine,
That's it. That's
named
good.
after my titanium alloy
Yeah.
spine.
So like every video like he does, and he's short on Instagram or YouTube, like he always does that intro. I'm fine. I'm steam powered giraffe, and it just like it always with that similar cadence to what you had just then, which is funny. But yeah. When did you find out this band existed? Because they're not that big. They have like what 200,000 monthly listeners. And they've been going for since 2008. But I've never heard of them before. But yeah, where did you sort of figure these guys out?
Well, you know, around the time I was finishing up with high school, we'll
Mm.
say maybe 2014, 2013, I was doing some exploration with my music tastes and had got recommended by Spotify of all places
Yeah.
the steampunk genre of music, and I fell in love with it. In that compilation
Mm.
that they had sent me, there was one particular Steam Powered Giraffe song that I kept coming back to from their album The 2 Cent Show.
Yeah.
uh Automatonic Harmonics.
Mm.
That song just impressed upon me. I felt the need to dive into the rest of their discography. Fell in love with everything from their concept, their vaudevillian style in their early albums, the sci-fi angle that they started taking for their later albums.
Mm.
And then we popped up over to their YouTube, started seeing like some of like the cool stuff that they do for their music videos as well as other stuff. And it's
Mm.
just it was a whirlwind of activity where I just found myself falling in love with them as artists. Like
Yeah.
it's a performance in every sense of the word.
Mm. And it's very it's interesting listening to you explain that because that's similar to what I maybe not as extreme I guess with it, but like for researching this album, as you know, I've been messaging you all these little things I've been finding out about the band or that I've been interested in.
Yep.
It's a rabbit hole. It really is. Like it's funny because I listened to a couple songs. I'm like, oh yeah, that's all right. Like yeah, very very talented musicians, which we'll get into. But like yeah, it's just really good music. But it's like nothing I would sort of like usually listen to. And it was similar, which is funny, to Brockhampton because Brockhampton are his group of group of guys and I didn't like their music at all until I figured out all of their little personalities, until I figured out all their names, and then going back and then I really liked the music. Similar with Steam Powered Giraffe, where it's like I didn't care for these. Like I looked at the videos, I'm like, what's going on? Who are these people? when I went back, and then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, now I know the spine, now I know Rabbit is, now I know who Zero is. Like, it makes me go back and actually enjoy listening to the albums a lot more, because now I'm trying to listen to, like, okay, who's singing right now? Whose song is this? You know what I mean? And
Right, right, right.
it adds a lot more to
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And
Really makes you appreciate each of their individual quirks because it
mm,
does come through in their music.
yeah, yeah,
Like, yeah, the certain lines they'll write for particular songs will be in character and whatnot, or certain
mm,
deliveries will be like quintessential to that one particular. I guess instead of just calling them like the different singers, we'll just refer to them as they refer to themselves, the different
yep,
robots.
yeah, yeah, the different robots, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's especially back in the day, it would have been such a pain to do all this. It was still a pain to do all the makeup, but they would do it like they started off busking, right? So they wouldn't have like made much money to start with, but like going out there in these full black and red outfits with makeup on, doing this like start playing in this character of being a robot, like for, just for people walking by. That would have been such like the dedication that would have taken.
The general inception of the band was the Bennett twins were taking a miming course
Mm,
at this Southern Californian school,
yeah.
and they decided to get together with another member of their class, John, who later was
Yeah.
had his own persona created, the
The
John, who's another
John.
member of the robot band for that period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they start off busking mostly just as like a interest of like, hey, it's pretty cool to like not just learn about this art form that we're doing, but actively getting to put some miming work into practice. You'll see like in their music videos and when they're doing like stage performances and whatnot, they have their robotic movements down to a freaking T. They
Yeah.
are super, super good about the isolations, the slight jittery motions of turning cogs and gears and whatnot. They'll
Mm.
also do like the sound effects of like
Yeah.
cranking
Yeah.
things and whatnot. It's a joy. It's a joy to see.
Yeah.
And after picking up like a bit of interest, like from just the show that they were doing at Balboa Park,
Mm.
eventually they got invited to be a mainstay and play at a local zoo.
Mm. Yeah.
And then they released their first album and everything really started taking off from that point onwards.
Yeah. Right.
So it was just meant to be like a fun project that they did to explore this art form
Mm.
that kind of snowballed into a greater
What it
work where
is.
they kind of have a full-fledged band built around it now.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. It's First off, I think it's hilarious that everybody has these maybe not elaborate names, but very different, like the Spine or like Rabbit. But then it's just the John. That's first off. That's hilarious. it's,
John.
it's just yeah, but yeah, like I got like a list of places where they first started off, and it's very it's interesting because I think a lot of, not to knock people that perform at these type of locations, but for the most part, it's very different from really any other band starting off. Usually they'll start off these little tiny like venues or type of thing, but you got like
Right.
yeah, you got the zoo, the animal park, you got like Legoland, and then you got like downtown Disney, all these things where it's like very different for to a place. It makes sense knowing the band and like that they have like such a different sort of vibe to them where they are doing like these robot. It's not just playing the songs. There's so much more to it, as you were saying. But yeah, it's just funny to see where they started compared to a lot of other bands. Like you wouldn't go into like a pub and see Steam Power Giraffe. You know what I mean? At any time in their career.
No, 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 no. So like very, very, very different. Like conceptually,
Mm,
it's because like their idea behind their band, the automatons playing music for you, it very much is like a kid show or like a family show.
yeah.
It's something that you'll see at amusement parks or you'll see at
Mm,
like a Chuck E. Cheese or something, like something where you would get like a bunch of kids together, or maybe like at a steampunk convention. I know they have played steampunk conventions, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. But I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's a family show that you go and see. It's an event that just pops up on clockwork. It's not really like a
Mm,
hey, we
Yeah.
got a big special event coming down here and we have several artists coming out to play, so rock on down, buy your tickets. It's more like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Hey, while you're here at this one particular location, why don't you check out the Steam Man band?
Yeah, right. I remember who was it? I don't know. I think it was I think in the spine because there's not many interviews. Like usually for like an episode of Jams, I'll interviews are sort of like what I like looking at to sort of find a bit more about the person. But there's not many. There's like maybe I haven't done enough interviews like looking at it, but like I know there was some with Isabella. Um and that's really about it. The spine didn't have many, the John didn't have many. Like it was very strange to sort of see like their sort of they do shows without the makeup and everything like that, but they still don't just go on any like interview and just talk and reel that back. You know what I mean? They keep it. I don't know. They keep it quite close to
Well,
their chest.
it's unfortunate to say. I think it's just because they haven't gained much like mainstream popularity yet. It
Mm.
is pretty niche at the end of the day, you know. Like,
Very niche, yes. Very niche. Yeah, and but they have been very consistent with their music. So they've been going since 2008, and what they released an album. When was the most recent album? Well, the first one was Zero. That was
1896 came out like
28.
a year or two ago.
Yeah, right. Okay, so
Was it?
I think so, and they still got their seventh album that they're working on now. So
Hmm.
they've been turning out, and they've been very even like when you look at their music, it's very it's consistently good, but they change a lot. Whereas I think the third member really does change the other two's way of writing music quite a lot.
Well, all three of them have the opportunity for writing music for the bands. Like, if there's
Mm.
any time you notice like one particular robot is taking like center stage for that song,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's because they wrote it.
Right.
So,
Yeah. That's fair enough. And but yeah. So do you know why the John ended up leaving? Because he was an original member. So you think that he would sort of be sticking through it for till the end. You know what I mean?
there was a little bit of controversy surrounding that, but at
Mm.
the end of the day, it was just business, and also they had artistic differences between like the John's general style. Like you'll notice, like as soon as he left the band, there was a huge thematic jump between
Yes.
album 2 and 3, that
Y-
being the 2 Cent Show and Mach 3.
yeah. Yeah.
Huge jump in
Yeah.
like just the overall aesthetic of the band. Like the first
Mm.
two albums very much were that vaudevillian kind of
Mm.
style with
Yeah.
the kind of old timey feel to it,
Mm.
and then it's turned more sci-fi after the John left. I think that's where the Bennett twins wanted to take the band from the inception.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, like I was saying before, when you notice
Mm.
like a certain robot is taking center stage, it's because they wrote the song.
Yeah.
Any one of the John's songs were very silly. They were very
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah. For sure. That is yeah. And it's I see you because I know the second album is their most critically acclaimed, right? If you talk to a Steam Powered Giraffe, the 2 Cent Show is really the main one that they sort of gravitate towards, right? For a general fan.
It,
But yeah.
well, it's because a lot of the songs on there were like indispensable for like the band as a whole. They're the songs that you're gonna want to hear at almost every single concert that they play.
Yeah, right. Like Honeybee or anything like that, where it's like
Oh, Honeybee was just electric. Such a good song. It's one of their
that
top
is.
singles.
It is, yeah, and rightfully so. What an amazing song. I think it's amazing. It doesn't matter who the third robot is. They always have this amazing way of like juggling so many different emotions through their albums, and it's shown in the Vice
Mhm.
Quadrant as well. Like they can go from like these really emotional sad songs about and you can always feel like they're not even talking as if they're robots sometimes, whereas like they're really peeling it back and they're almost speaking just like as the character, as the person they are behind the character. And then they'll switch between talking about like sky sharks or whatever. Like you know what I mean? That's consistent almost in every album where it's like they can just juggle all these things and it's they do it all so well. It's like it's almost effortlessly going back and forth between all these things, and that is amazing to do. That's a very difficult thing to do as well. Mm.
Yeah. I think that's honestly like can be rocked up to them being just performers, not just simply musicians, but it is an act from top to bottom. Like,
Yeah,
the whole shebang is a show in and of itself. So,
yeah,
you gotta really get grounded with your characters. I'm sure they probably wrote like a lot of the acts and whatnot, rehearsed it in great detail.
Mm,
Like if you had ever seen like any of the rehearsals that they were like to record and whatnot, they're very serious about like making sure that they perfect everything from the ground up, starting with their mime work and
mm.
whatnot.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, you see the discipline with that as well, considering like so many other artists don't have to worry about anything like this, anything like this at all. They don't have to worry about, miming to break down after a certain section of a song or this and that. It's just they go on stage and they can rock out and do whatever. With these robots, like they're putting this extra sort of layer on top of it, which makes them what they are, a steam powered giraffe. But just it's it's a layer of just wow, that is amazing skill. Like you see them like in these live performances or in their rehearsals, and it's just yeah, they don't even make it look difficult, and it is ridiculous. Juggling, playing an instrument, making singing for the most part, making it sound good, also miming and like doing all these other things. It is a testament. Like they are so skilled. They are so talented. It's ridiculous.
Definitely a good introductory course to like just steampunk jam bands in a general. Like
Mm.
a lot of them do tend to have like some sort of character background story. It's just like part of the quintessential steampunk makeup.
Mm.
Uh, like for example, who they had guest starring on the track Sky Sharks that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You had Professor Elemental, a fellow steampunk artist from the UK.
Is that who that
His
is? Yeah. Okay.
whole
Yeah.
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 His whole shtick
Yeah. Yeah.
is that he's like a kooky scientist and whatnot, and you'll even see like the character stuff popping up in his own albums and whatnot.
Oh. Okay. Wow. Okay. So
Yeah,
they all share that world pretty well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just like a quintessential steampunk thing. Another band that we can mention is the Coggun's Dead. They have like a total carny vibe going on.
Yeah.
Abney Park, they're airship pirates. Like they all have a theme that they fit to, and they build their music around this world that they create, and they each have like individual lore and whatnot.
Mm.
It's performance. It's
Mm.
half of what it is. It's the story behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing that they're so welcome to bring in like other artists from the same community to sort of work together and stuff like that. Like it's yeah, and just having a open door policy almost to some other people, just to be like, hey, you want to come do this little skit or this part of a song, just for the sake of it, like.
It's very give and take because like in the same way that they had Professor Elemental guest starring on the Vice Quadrant with
Mm.
Sky Sharks, with his own project that he did, the Ape Quest album, which was this whole little skit where he's going through different, traveling through time, trying to find his monkey butler.
I think you've talked to me
Yeah,
about this album for sure, right? This is something you've brought
I
up before
I feel
because
like I've mentioned this before. Yeah,
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
there was a song that features Steam Powered Giraffe on there as well, the Weird Weird West.
Mm.
So it is give and take. Like in the same way, he helps out with one of their projects, they help out with one of his projects.
Right. It's a bit of back and forth. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's really nice. So like
They're a real
yeah,
tight knit community.
yeah, absolutely. That's really good to hear. Like I think that just shows on how good of a community it is when they can just do stuff like that without
Hmm.
worrying
Hmm.
about egos and stuff like that. But when you chalk down to because with the band when there is that third robot, they really do play an integral part of their sound. Do you have a preference? Like, are you more of a Hatchworth or a John or Zero? Do you have a number one where you're like this set of albums sort of resonate a bit more with you? Like, I can assume it's Hatchworth considering the album you chose, but is that the case?
Yeah, it is afterwards. I
Yeah.
like a lot of the stuff that he brought to the team, like as an artist.
Mm.
He did a lot of the promo artwork and other drawings and illustrations, along with Bunny. She's not the one who single-handedly did everything. Sam or
Mm.
Hatchworth did a lot of the work as well.
Right.
So, like that was really cool. Also, just the general vibe that he brought to the table. Like I was saying before, uh, depending on who the third member is, thematically, the albums will jump to a completely different place,
Mm.
and the songs will kind of have like a different vibe entirely,
Yeah.
just from having that third member, that third piece of that perfect harmony.
Yeah, it's yeah, and it's interesting on how they change songs, especially with like the most recent member, well, it's 2016, like Zero. They had to go back and sort of for the live performances alter some of their songs, like Honeybee, because Zero is a very different singer to Hatchworth, and Hatchworth was different to John, where it's they have to go back and sort of like edit songs almost on how they're gonna do it because songs rely so much on harmony. Um, but every time it sounds amazing, which is another testament to how talented they are.
They know it. That much is for sure. They know the songs on the back of their hands, given that they're the ones who wrote and produced everything from the ground up. It's not just a case of
Yeah.
they're the singer songwriter. No, no, no.
Mm,
They did the score. They did the
mm,
songwriting.
mm,
They do the singing. They worked on the harmonies. Everything from
mm.
top to bottom.
Yeah. It really is like it was started off like just like a passion project, right? Because I don't think they're signed to a label. Like I think they're all independent. They run their own merch store. They have their own little like website. It's all just ran by the Bennett twins, or I don't know how much the third member really does in that sense, but you can see like it
So
really is, yeah.
David, or the Spine, takes
Mm,
majority of the like business side of things. He's the one who handles the majority of it.
okay, yeah.
Bunny does like a good chunk of like the more artistic side of things,
Mm,
and then their third member is really there for like just working on music stuff and whatnot, and the
right.
occasional if they choose to do that for like online stuffs.
Yeah, right. In regards to this album, is there any sort of standout songs? Is it more like you love the entire piece and it's sort of hard to sort of pick out little sections, or is it you have sort of your favorite songs, you have your sort of favorite moments in it?
I do happen to love quite a few songs like on the album. Like, let me go ahead and just pull it up real quick so I can like
Yeah,
flick through. Like, I mean, one thing that is uber cool to me is how they reprise certain beats from certain songs throughout. Like other ones, like
yeah,
the very first track of the album, the Vice does Tight, is
mm,
referenced in maybe four or five different songs
yeah,
over the course of the entire project.
mm,
And it is nice because, it kind of gives you that general
mm,
really cool feel of like
mm,
it is a
yeah,
whole piece. It's like when a certain movie score kicks up and it's like, oh shoot, that's from the opening scene. Oh, it's gonna go crazy now. Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. It brings back all those emotions that you've already had with the original, like when the first time you've heard
mhm.
it. And then so usually the first time you hear it, the first thing you hear on the album is the Vice does tight. And so then when like they're saying there must be something, like whenever you hear that again, it brings back those emotions that you had when you first started to listen to it, saying like what's going on, what is any of this. But yeah, it's I think how do you think it goes as at sort of explaining what actually is going on in this album, because it can be quite dense with
Uh,
information and lore.
it is kind of hard to follow because they jump around between like sure, the album is split in half with the Vice Quadrant parts 1 and 2, but that's
Yeah.
more of like act 1, act 2, like you
Mm,
went to go see a play.
mm,
It's intermission in the middle, you go do something else, you have
yeah.
a good time, you go down the lobby, get yourself a treat, that type of jazz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess.
um
Yeah,
but throughout the album they are actually jumping between two different parallel timelines
yeah, yeah.
for the cohesive story.
Mm,
It's kind of hard to keep track of.
yeah.
You'll see certain characters referenced in different parts of the timeline, like in the track Fire Fire, and in what was the other one? Daughter of Space. You will see reference the exact same incident of the spaceship that just launched, like getting blown up by like a solar flare or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And you'll see it diverge between these two different songs and what happens to the subsequent characters inside of the ship.
Mm,
In one instance, you will have the creation of the Necro Star. In the other, you have the creation of Commander Cosmo, who is a
mm.
superhero type guy.
Yeah.
Same person at the end of
Yeah.
the day. And there also is traveling between the two parallel dimensions, given that you do have that whole scuff up at the end between Commander Cosmo and the Necrostar.
Mm. Yeah,
He
like
is
yeah,
the same person, though. They're
right.
both Walter at the end of the day.
Is yeah, because I know you sent through the timeline, which was amazingly illustrated. I think it was that Bunny who did that, because that artwork
Yeah,
is
yeah, Bunny.
amazing. She's so talented. It's yeah. So even reading that and then going back and listening to the album, I don't know if it's maybe just me because I still got lost with it, but I think it's also just because like it's sort of been my second or third listen on it, and it was still a bit like I got a little bit more about it, but it's also like it still lost me a little bit. So I'm sure that's just a me thing, but it's very yeah.
Avant-garde. It is like
Mm,
more just like you kind of sit there and enjoy it, you know?
mm,
It's not meant to make complete whole sense because even as a story, it doesn't
yeah.
really reach a conclusive ending at the end. I mean,
Right.
I believe on the last track,
Mm,
like Commander Cosmo is like calling for help, and he's like, "We need help. We
yeah.
need
Bring in
heroes. We need
steam powers.
all the heroes."
Yeah, and then it ends on yeah whale song. Um, isn't that just a
Yes.
yeah like when Gigi wakes everyone up, which is confusing because Gigi is voiced by Bunny, so I assume in the
Yes.
sketches that it's Bunny speaking, but it's Gigi because
Yeah,
yeah
it could be a little confusing because you have the same voice work behind it, and like
yeah
same person doing like the
doing
voice work
double
and all that
duty
jazz.
yeah mm,
But Gigi is just a hand puppet that she uses for like filmed skits that'll occasionally play on a big screen behind them during performances,
yeah
or even on occasion whip out Gigi in the middle of a set just for like a little comedic relief.
right yeah. Well, yeah, I wish that, yeah, I don't know. I wish I would be able to see them live. I think that would be amazing. It's,
Oh,
yeah,
that is one of my absolute dreams to go see an SPG show live. They had a 20th anniversary, I think.
yeah.
No, was it 15th anniversary?
It was online,
Because they've
right?
only been around since 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way, they had all of the previous members of the bands coming up.
Oh, 10th anniversary. That was the 10th anniversary.
Oh,
I think,
10th anniversary,
yeah,
10th anniversary.
yeah,
Yeah, 2018. There you
yeah,
go. It wasn't just they brought back the John, they brought
yeah.
back Hatchworth. They also brought back a
Upgraded.
fourth
Yes,
member of
yeah.
the band that they had for a very small season when they were working at the zoo. It was requested that they introduced a fourth member of the band. I can't remember what name she
Upgrade.
used.
I read it down before.
Upgrade. Yeah,
Upgrade.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you got this. You've been doing the
I
research.
got you. I got you. Man. I got you. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they actually had to re-record their first album for that to include her in it. So there's two versions of the
Mm.
album one.
Oh, I thought they would removed her. I thought it was a lot more spiteful than that. I thought that they released the first one with the four of them, and then they had to go back and remove her for whatever reason. And I was like, why did they go back and remove Upgrade for? But it makes sense for
No,
the
it was
other way
the other
around.
way around. Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes
yeah.
more
So
sense.
they
Yeah.
released the album one, and then they did a reiteration of it with Upgrade added in for like
Yeah.
different harmonizings and whatnot, and
Mm.
just incorporating her into the act.
Yeah.
But she didn't stick around for long. She was more like a
Like an extra. Like it's.
temporary member.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I've watched I want to watch the whole thing, but you have to buy it, which is completely fair. But I've been just seeing little snippets, and I think everyone starts beating up the spine. I think. And it's the funniest thing in the world because everybody's just punching him, and then Hatchworth runs on stage and starts punching the spine even more, and everyone's just it's
Yep,
just great.
yep, yep, yep.
It's so good.
Big goofy energy. I love it. I love it.
But yeah, that show that looked amazing. Like even as someone who's been a fan for I would say 2 weeks, maybe, it's still like, oh my god, they're all there.
We got the whole band back
Yeah,
together. That's crazy.
yeah, like oh my god. But yeah, speaking on Hatchworth, as you know, because I've been talking to you a lot about it, I'm a Zero stan. Zero is my favorite boy. I love everything he does. He's my number one, right? But Hatchworth teeters on this like comedy horror thing, where I feel like
Yeah.
he gets a bit terrifying sometimes. Like when he's thinking about shoes, he makes it look like he's just insane, and it's amazing. Like, I think his character is very distinct. There was nothing else like different like Hatchworth. I think is very much a distinct character, as they all are. But yeah, he had a lot going for him, I think.
The artist behind Hatchworth, Sam, he has
Mm,
a very interesting dark art style that he kind of like wasn't able to fully represent in
okay.
Steam Powered Giraffe. That's kind of one of the reasons why he ended up leaving the band,
Yeah.
was because like the things that he wanted to create artistically was much darker and had a different theme to it than where they were able to take the band. But of course, it was like no ill will or
No.
anything. He maintained with the band. He even ended up putting out another album whilst waiting for them to introduce a
Mm,
third member who was able to kind of like stick and match with the band and be a good work that and work out well. And that was essentially when Zero came into the whole bit.
right. Yeah. And
So
yeah.
canonically,
Mm.
instead of Hatchworth just disappearing into the void, he is out gold fishing.
Just forever. Just forever. Just gold fishing for as long as eternity. You know.
As long as time itself. He's got all the time in the world. He was built like 100 years ago. He's chilling. He's fine.
No, I really liked it. It was funny because you look at the three of them and you think that Bunny would take care of all the high range, but then you listen to it and it's Hatchworth for the most part. Like in his albums, he can hit so many high notes. That man.
He's got a phenomenal voice, and I felt
Mm-hmm.
like it meshed great with the Bennett twins. Like
Mm.
they of course, like all of them like are just really accomplished singers in the way that they're able to harmonize so beautifully, and they each bring a unique vocal tone to the
Mm.
to the whole of the projects that they work on.
Mm.
Zero was a very interesting addition in my opinion because he has like a bit of a husky voice,
Yeah.
unlike the other third wheel that they've had
Mm.
prior. Like the John was somewhat high pitched.
Mm-hmm.
The Hatchworth also kind of had like this kind of higher pitch to his voice, and they
Mm.
definitely did have to rework a lot of the harmonies to be able to incorporate
Yeah.
a fellow with a huskier voice for
Yeah.
sure, like you were mentioning earlier, like how they had to rework Honeybee and other songs as well
Yeah.
that they play.
Yeah.
But no, it ended up meshing beautifully, creating like a
Mm.
neat, interesting style to it in and of itself.
Mm.
And also the original songs that they did just with Zero
Mm.
sound fantastic.
Yeah.
1896 is another album, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Yeah, as you know, Zero is my favorite, but I feel like he's the least robot like out of all of them. Like I feel like he doesn't do as many robot things, if that makes sense. And I think it's only because he usually standing next to like Bunny, who is like the one who does the most robot esque things. So
Her robot has a tendency to break down the most out of all of them, given
yeah.
that she was the first one to be built.
Oh
It
yeah,
actually
yeah,
comes into their canon story.
yeah,
Uh, no, let's see. So Bunny was the first one that was built, but was incomplete
yeah, yeah.
upon creation.
Mm,
That's also how they were able to like work in stuff regarding her transition and whatnot, and also fluidly apply it to her character as well through the lore of their band.
yeah, because they went back because when she started transitioning, um, for context for someone for anyone who doesn't know, so yeah, so Isabella was they were usually well originally sorry she was originally a male, and she started transitioning. What was it? 2016 wasn't it? Something like that. Along those.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, and so she transitioned the character of Rabbit, um, and then transitioned to herself. I think afterwards, right? Is that sort of the timeline of that? I think.
No, it was a simultaneous
Oh, okay.
thing,
So it was like okay at the same time, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
The way that
yeah,
they explained it with their lore was
yeah.
that, oh, they had found the unfinished plans of Rabbit and that she was never complete and was always intended to be female. So
That's
the
so good. Like
current,
yeah.
yeah,
I know. I like the way that they do that because they have we have so much lore. Like yeah, all the characters that sort of fit within this world. As you were saying, it's not just a band. There's so many other layers to it. This lore is one of them. And then so yeah, and they are also accepting of it like from everything. I think So she would have started transitioning when Zero was in the band. I think Hatchworth would have left at that point then. But like from all the
No, 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 no.
what is it? Wasn't she? Or was it?
No, our transition started with the third album as soon as Hatchworth joined the band.
Was it really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You'll
Oh.
notice in like a lot of the music
Oh,
videos
you're
from
right.
Mach 3, you'll start to see like, the feminine rabbit kind of
Mm.
take stage.
Right, I got my notes mixed up. It says early in 2014, Isabella Bennett began transitioning, and then I was looking at the last line, which is when she legally changed her name, was in 2016, and I was looking at that instead. So
Ah,
there you go.
yeah, that's just the legality
That's
stuff.
just
That's just
that's the
paperwork.
boring. That's just yeah, yeah. But yeah, something interesting about like Isabella was that she like I'm sure you've seen them like she like vlogged basically her transition or like her first day on hormones, and then I think it was like 6 months
Yeah.
and then a year. Like that would have been very tough to make. I'm assuming, right? Like that would be a very big thing to do and put that online for everyone to see. Right?
It's very vulnerable and raw. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it just it shows I think how much like I don't know. I think how confident is that the right word maybe, or is just like she's so
Uh,
open to like hey this is exactly what I'm going through, like because I think she mentioned like she needed videos like that when she was originally transitioning. So she like or like thinking about it, she had nothing to really go off. There was nothing like that.
yeah, no, no, no. Like it definitely is neat to see like just kind of it's very helpful for other trans people out there to see somebody who's like willing to talk about all the nitty-gritty and like the behind the scenes stuff and not just kind of and shed light on
Yeah.
the, the thing like as a whole because it's a path of self-discovery and oftentimes it helps to kind of have somebody like usher you into like understanding exactly what is going on behind the mind of that person or like all the difficulties that they face or just their emotional state of being in those in that difficult time because it's not an easy simple thing. It's not like you just wake up one day and it's like you flick a switch and everything just changes over. It's a slow arduous process that
Mm.
it's very emotionally draining and daunting. And it does help to have somebody kind of say, like, hey, I've been there, I documented it. And you know what? You can kind of take notes, see exactly what kind of stuff I experienced with my own personal walk and all that jazz. It's encouraging. It
Mm.
really is.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. It's another aspect of the band where it's just like it really is nothing else like steam powered Giraffe. There's nothing else that really hits all of these different points like this band. I don't think they ever will be. Like they just do so many different things, and they're so like like Isabella being so open about all those things, and just I don't know. They're very I don't know. Yeah, they're very one of a kind. Like for the most part, you hear a band, you're like, oh, there's nothing else is like this because they use a certain guitar technique or a certain like whatever. But with this, it's like there's nothing else like them because they put so much energy in all these other aspects of that band, where it's just it's no one could do it as well as them because no one's even thought about doing all of this.
Yeah. No, I mean, because they're band born instead of like based off of, hey, let's make music. This is gonna be fun. Get your buddies together, go
Yeah,
meet up in the garage. Hey, I know Tim. He's a drummer. He can drum for us. And
yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah,
Jake over there shreds on the bass guitar. Like,
yeah,
let's write music. It
yeah.
was let's do a miming act. Let's create characters.
Mm.
Let's have fun with it. Let's create a show.
Mm.
And then the music came afterwards.
Right. Yeah, that makes you definitely see that though. And but just quickly back to Bunny. It was amazing to hear her voice change but still be amazing. Like, through the process, which would have taken what 2 years I think it was. So she started transitioning in 2014 and then changed her name in 2016. So just say 2 years there. But yeah, her voice was consistently good throughout that time. It was I would feel it would be a risk to being on hormones and risking that type of stuff. Not to say it's not any reason not to do it, but I'm saying as an artist, changing your vocal cords to an extent could be a risk.
HRT isn't necessarily like effective of one's voice. A lot of it is just vocal training and
Right.
stuff like that. It very much is like down to the person, like in the same way like you can do like voice acting work
Mm.
or just creating like different character voices or impressions. It's very similar to that.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
It's not necessarily like it's a permanent change in one's vocal choice, vocal cords like
Yeah.
really change. It's more like you just focus on a new style of talking
Oh,
and
okay. Right.
kind of different form of inflection with your voice and different cadence that you speak in.
Ah, so it's more of a conscious thing. It's more of like, okay, I would like to speak like
Yeah, I mean,
this.
eventually it does become like kind of secondhand nature and also like, in the back of your mind, but
Mm.
for the most part, it is like, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fair enough. And but yeah. So at least, yeah, with this album, do you have like a number one song? Do you have like your number one where it's like, yeah, is it sort of like you couldn't live without that one particular song, at least from this album?
I adore the track uh Progress in Technology.
That
That's
is a banger.
definitely got to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
and it's such a bop,
Yeah.
irregardless of if I'm doing a full listen to of the Vice Quadrant or not. That is
Yeah.
something on a
Mhm.
regular like repetition in my like general uh song listening on a weekly basis. I will defo have Progress in Technology play because this is just such a bop.
Yeah.
It definitely gets you in the mood. It's a vibe in and of itself.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites from the album. Where it's because it starts off like I think Steam Drunk can be a little bit upbeat at times, but for the most part, like Progress in Technology is the first sort of upbeat song on the album, which is like 5 tracks in. So when it really hits in, you're like, oh, let's go, like let's go on this journey. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, it's just this whole album was just interesting to listen to because I think it shows them just being so dedicated to doing this story while still making good music, like even more restraints than usual, like but having to be robots and all these things, but also putting a storyline into it, but still and making 28 tracks and it still be good, like it's wild. It's sort of
No,
ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, 100% agreed.
Mm.
It's got to be one of my favorite works of theirs in a very, very, very long time. Like,
Mm.
of course, I love almost every album that they've put out.
Yeah.
There's nary a SPG track that I dislike.
Yeah. Right.
They all just tickle this little part of my brain that makes me happy. It just sends the dopamine in droves.
Yeah, and yeah, no, it's good that you have that like one band that you can get so much out of, so much enjoyment, like genuine enjoyment out of. Um, because it's like I have that with a couple other bands where it's like I can just listen to them and then it's just like my day is better because of it. And
Right.
yeah, it's
There
just
just are a few select bands that are like that.
yeah, exactly. Like you can say music in general, but then you sort of get into it and like okay, there's actually like Red Hot Chili Peppers or like Aesop Rock or anything like that for me, where it's like I put them on and I'm feeling better than what I was prior to it. And so it's cool to hear that that's similar thing for you with this band. Like with
Oh yeah, yeah, no, no. If
mm,
it's the day where I'm waking up to some SPG and I'm just kind of having that bumping in the background all day long,
yeah.
I'm in a chipper mood. I'm right chuffed, kind of going up and down the street, jamming out to my SPGs, singing along. People looking at me like a weirdo when I'm out and about, but that's fine.
Man, if people saw me on how I like when I'm driving, I have music cranking and I'm singing, I'm headbanging, like I would look insane. Anybody would see me driving, I would think I'm like, yeah, off the plot.
Oh yeah, but you know what? Like that's the best type of music to listen to. The stuff where you feel so unashamed, just
Mm,
kind of losing yourself to the groove, to the music, to the
yeah,
to the atmosphere, and saying, "Who gives a fuck who's looking?" And
yeah,
I'm living it up. I'm partying in my own headspace. This is a good time.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, well, you love it so much that you just like don't care what anyone else is thinking, and it's just you love music so much that it can just stop you thinking about all these other things that's going on. Where it's just like I'm just gonna enjoy this moment, and just embrace the music that's around me. It's I think we're all lucky to live in a time where music is so readily available and so much of it as well. It's yeah, I think a lot of people can find those bands like Steam Power Draft for you or Chili Peppers for me, where I think they can find those things. It's just like they're out there, just gotta go looking for them. But what's your sort of overall connection to music? Because you know, we chat about music quite a lot, and so being in the Jam Fam, always chatting about music, mate.
Oh yeah,
But
no,
sorry, you broke up there. What was that? Sorry.
oh, I said the Jam Fam is the fam built around jams. You know what I mean? We adore the music. It's all about the sound, that
it,
auditory rush of emotion and feeling and just good stuff. Like for me, what I look for in music is
mm,
not necessarily lyrics or anything like that, or even specifically focusing on particular artists at times.
mm,
Oftentimes, it just has to be like that one riff or that one
mm,
lyric that just
mm.
hammers home or like, gives off a particular vibe,
Right.
just something that feels extremely agreeable to you. I can listen to a 5-minute song and not really give a fuck about any of it, but if I know like that one little bit in the middle that they just kick off real heavy with the guitar and it just lights up and it's just
Yeah.
exciting or super duper cool, then that song is a bop in my opinion,
Mm.
even if you kind of have to wait for it.
That's almost better when you wait for it and then you actually get there at the end. It's even better. Um, no, I definitely get that. So, like, have you always had that connection to music, or?
um so growing up, interestingly enough, I kind of had this impression that I just didn't like music,
Okay.
which is sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking
Okay.
back
Yeah.
on it, that is such a sad impression to have of oneself.
Mm.
The reality of the situation was surrounded by so much mainstream pop music that you would have down here in SoCal, what you would hear on the radio, people would be talking about, what people would be playing.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel any sort of connection to it. Of course, there were the occasional few songs where,
Yeah.
like I said before, like it just picked up and you're extremely interested in it, but it took actively growing as a person and starting to having the internet at my fingertips and being able to explore different types of sound
Yeah.
that I was able to kind of come across particular artists, usually from all over the world, that I enjoy so much more so than what I see on the mainstream.
Yeah. Mm.
Like you got folks down here and they're all talking about the same thing. They're talking about The Weeknd. They're talking about Drake. They're
Mm.
talking about
Katy Perry.
throw
There you
me a bone here.
go.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, musically, they're all good artists, I
Of course.
suppose. I mean, they're doing well for themselves,
Yeah.
selling millions of
Yeah.
albums and
Mm.
whatnot. But
Exactly. Yeah.
I, as a person, just don't really care for this style of music that they're putting out and finding that there's other genres out there that incorporate completely different ideas and themes and
Mm.
stylistic points to them that I love. Like one of my favorite genres of music would be called the black cabaret, the dark cabaret.
Okay.
It's a style of cabaret music where they put a twist on it and it has like a lot of audio discordance where you have sharp piano and like really fast instrumentals and
Yeah.
almost chaotic sound, but it all comes together in a wonderful piece. Love to see it.
Yeah.
It's artistic. It's not just simply hired some multi-million dollar producer to go out of his way to say, hey, this is what popular, this is what sell albums. No,
Yeah.
it's people just creating what's at their core,
Mm.
what's at their heart, and
Mm.
getting to hear their personal sound.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
unique feeling that not every artist gets to dredge up.
Mm.
Like the Gorillas, for example, is an
Yeah.
artist I'll say that definitely does that. They're very much their own.
Yeah.
Stylistically, they also have a lore built up behind them, and
Mm.
they also have a very unique sound that I don't think other folks can really emulate because
Mm.
it is very much defined by them. Like a
Yeah.
gorilla's style song is a
Yeah.
gorilla song.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool to hear, like, after like looking at, because I think that's a lot of people, especially growing up, especially like, because we're a similar age for the most part, where it's like when we were a bit younger, the internet wasn't around to what it is now. And in the last couple of years, Spotify has really blown up. So all we really had was what was given to us, which was the radio. So I completely understand where you're just like, I don't want to listen to the same 4 songs, and it's just not for you. And it's just because it only gives you that one genre of music for the most part, where it's like there are probably a lot of people that were in your position of, I just don't like music, instead of it being, well, I don't like this type of music because you didn't know anything else, and it's an interesting place to be now. As you know, like, we're always chatting about, like, you see in the music chat in our Discord, whereas there's always just weird stuff going on. Like, we're always sending just always different artists and stuff like that, and It's really amazing. It's really amazing.
It's probably one of the reasons why I got so attached to the Eurovision Song Contest because I just got the opportunity to hear so many different styles of music from all across the world and a lot of
Yeah.
artists who are unashamed of being weird or wacky or just having fun with it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's all love, it's all appreciation, it's
Mhm.
all just fun.
Mm.
When you can tell the artist is having fun doing what they're doing,
Mhm.
it makes it so much more enjoyable as the listener to be able to like kind of
Yeah.
get in on that excitement.
Uh huh. Yeah, oh, for sure. And that's
Uh,
exactly why like Steam Powered Giraffe is such an interesting and good band. It's because and they keep changing with pretty much every album because they make the music they want to make and they don't really like they don't really like limit themselves to a certain genre or a certain technique. They just do whatever, use whatever instruments they want. They put what they really are passionate about first, and that comes through. It makes their music enjoyable. It's like a they're letting us into their world, their unfiltered world, which is amazing. You know.
growing up listening to like a lot of rap music, that's kind of what my mom played. That's what I
Oh yeah,
grew up hearing.
your mom's hip hop
You
kid.
know,
Yeah.
or the occasional like rock song like you would get your so I got my fair share of like Metallica, AC/DC, Eminem, the franchise boys,
Yeah.
da, 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 several artists. The list goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, a lot of it just kind of felt like, hey, we got the same guitar on these same tracks. It's all just general generic rock vibes and enjoyable, sure, but it's not really stand out. It's not really creating something new. Or with like rap songs, a lot of them were just, hey, it's got a good beat.
Mm.
That's pretty much all I really got going for it.
Right.
Everything beyond that is just
Mm.
different lyrics about the same thing
Right.
hashed over again.
Right.
Now, if you change it up and say you got a nice picking banjo in the background and then somebody throws in some hot bars on top of it and you got
Yeah.
a stellar rap track right there,
Yeah.
that's something else entirely. When you can see
Right.
that the artist is having fun, a little tongue-in-cheek action,
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
it's kind of the vibe.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. I think when it added a bit more personality to it, I think that's when people just enjoy that sort of stuff. Maybe not more because you see like popular music isn't really doing that. But I think when people can get really passionate and connected to an artist, I think usually that's corresponding with the artist being transparent and sort of making the music they want to make. So I think that's yeah, and
I
it's
agree with that the tracks.
mm, yeah, it's I just like I'm just so interested in the whole this entire band. Like it's just the lore and everything they do. It's ridiculous. Like I was just saying to you like off stream, a couple days ago, like I was like editing something, and then I had a video of Bunny just chatting about whatever, and then like I stopped what I was doing to look at her just talk for like 20 minutes, just about whatever was going. I don't even remember what she was talking about, but it was so interesting, just like her character or who she is, and I think that was just very much a testament to how like interesting that they are because they're very much just themselves and they don't have to put on a facade. Like when they're talking, they're not trying to do anything. Not like they put what they sort of believe first. They don't put any like they don't filter it or change it to you know sell more records or get more fans.
No, that's something that's very common down here in SoCal.
Mm,
I live so close to Hollywood, and you'll see a bunch of people who are very fake and very much on top of like monitoring everything that they say because they want to be able to reach critical success in the long run, and they're very much focused on how would this make me look to X, Y, and Z people or
mm.
groups out there and how they will be received by the public eye. And when you look at Steam Power Draft, no, they're just surviving and thriving. They're just living life, they're just doing their thing.
Yeah, for sure, right?
Very different. Like when you can really peel back the layers on an artist and get to take a look at who they are as people,
Mm,
you'll see folks in interviews who are very guarded and they keep a lot of stuff like close to vest because they don't necessarily want to talk about their actual thoughts or opinions on things because they're scared of like what kind of public outcry they'll get from that or
yeah.
what kind of reaction they'll get from people because they've built up a persona, a facade.
Mm,
And it's interesting to say that the band that is built completely off of alternate personas and whatnot are probably
Yeah.
some of the most down to earth people that I have seen. Just like when they
Mm.
take off the makeup at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's an amazing way of putting it. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's something that is just so beautiful about this band, and it's just it reminds me like I think I know quite a lot about music, but it's still it's clear this stuff like this shows me that I don't because I didn't think anything like this existed. Anything remotely like this existed. That would just make
I'm
like
gonna have to send some more steampunk down your way. Like,
I think so. See, I don't usually like a lot of steampunk. Like, I've listened to some of it, and it's not usually up my alley. But I think I don't know. It's something about yeah. I think it's again just the all the effort they put into the world around it, and they do just make brilliant music as well. It's just something else. Like it really is. Is there sort of like any like memory that you have associated with this band?
well, actually, my first listen of the Vice Quadrant was like a that is like a foundational memory for me.
Hmm.
So when I first started diving into the band's discography and I was
Yeah.
listening to each album from top to bottom,
Hmm.
uh, when I got into the Vice Quadrant, at the time
Yeah. Yeah.
I was playing an MMO on my phone. It was just a rinky-dink little game that I was passionate about at the time,
Yep.
and having this play in the background, I actually noticed that I spent about 2 hours not progressing anything I was working on because I was just enthralled, just kind of running around in circles in this game while I'm listening to everything. And I couldn't really focus on getting any task done because I was just completely blown away and focused on this story unfolding in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, it was
Wow.
super duper freaking cool to me. It impressed upon me so much. Like
Yeah.
of course I loved like the first three albums that I had just listened to, but
Yeah.
that's what really took it up to a next level
Mm.
because I love theater. I don't necessarily get to pursue that love as much as I like because I'm very much like a homebody and I don't get the opportunity to go out much to go see shows and whatnot. Or
Yeah.
I would like to have like a good chunk more plays or musicals under my belt. There's only like a handful I've gotten the chance to go see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and this was a very much at home experience that was completely auditory and something you kind of explore on your own. I fell in love with an art form in which you can close your eyes and find yourself in the midst of something.
Mm.
The concept of a rock opera has been something that has always intrigued me, and but there's not many that I have like really like. If you say someone like, I would love to listen to a rock opera,
Mm.
do you have any to recommend? Most
Yeah.
people will just kind of stare at you
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why don't you Google it? And it's like, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
For
hard
sure.
to really come across.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. For sure. It's definitely not a genre that's widely sort of like sort of done. Like it's very niche. It's very niche. I feel.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm. Yeah.
but let's see,
Yeah.
let's see.
Mm. Mm.
But the Vice Quadrant,
Mm.
like, it's very thematic and it almost feels like, like the general arc, like a movie's format of it starts off, it builds up, it
Mm.
sets the characters, it sets the stage.
Yeah.
Then you reach a climax in the middle, and or sorry, towards the end, and you have like that whole explosive, like wow moment, kind
Yeah.
of winds down into some nonsense. In this case, being it winds down to the silly whale song, which
Yes.
it's all enjoyable, but it's a rise and fall of emotions and you become invested in, well, what's going to happen next when you hear the
Mm.
track fire fire and you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
they're all dying, the space station's on fire, everything's done and over with. Then boom, right into is
Sky
it Daughter
Sharks.
of Space that comes directly afterwards?
Sky Sharks and then Daughter of Space. Yeah.
No. It goes right into Sky Sharks.
Yeah.
Okay, so it goes into nonsense, and then it goes back to Daughter of Space, and we
Yeah.
get to see what really picks up from there.
Yeah. 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 It takes an interlude. It takes a little break to talk about Sky Sharks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
You know, to get some good old British professor to tell us that the world's endangered because there's these sharks flying in on them.
I, but yeah, I still like, like driving around listening to this album is a trip, especially for the first time. You're like, I have no idea where this is going at all. Like, it's going to stay in the sort of like opera rock sort of genre, but it's still like every track you're like, because yeah, as you just mentioned, like it does this like epic journey and it ends on whale song, where it's like for the first time listening to it, you would never think that's where we're going after a 2 hour long journey. But for the fact it is, and the fact that it's so like, yeah, you just unpredictable. It just it adds so much to the album. I feel where it really can.
So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I like the excitement at the end of the Necrostar has not been defeated, and
Mm.
there is that looming threat in the background that is referenced in the subsequent two albums as well.
Oh
In
right.
the song Dream Machine at the end of Quintessential,
Yeah.
you have a brief line from the Necrostar.
Mm.
Also, in the song Ollie and the Equinox Band in 1896,
Yeah.
there's reference to there's kind of like some chaos that breaks in at the end of the track.
Yeah.
And even you start to hear like that wee doo wee boo of like the Vice does tight
Oh yeah.
kicking in
Right.
the background at the end
Yeah.
there, and then you have like the Necrostar popping up again, which alludes to potentially a future project that incorporates some sort of finality to this long going saga. So it kind of bleeds
Right.
out from after the Vice Quadrant into their
Yeah.
and just becomes a part of their universe as a whole,
Mm.
which is super freaking cool in my opinion.
Oh, for sure, and especially yeah, having that lore and having them being so dedicated to it. Because this album, what year did this come out? Bloody what? Where's my notes? Where's my notes? What year is it? 2015. 2015. This album came out. So to still that they're still referencing it like in their most recent album and like probably the next album as well. It's. I think it'll be rewarding to be a fan and knowing like spending the time to understand the timeline and what was actually going on. You get rewarded with stuff like that. Whereas like little hints, you're like, wow, you wouldn't have picked up on that if you weren't interested in the lore, but because you are, you get more out of it.
You could just listen to it as a standalone piece. You might be a little confused as to like, oh, what's going on here? The music just got all bloopy out of nowhere, and you hear people screaming in the background in this dark, husky voice.
Yeah, yeah.
Itchy, essentially, like vibes, and I was like, what the fuck is that about? I gotta say, I'm kind of curious, so I would like to kind of ask you a
Of
question
course, of
because,
course.
given that this is like your first foray into SPG and
It
SPG
is.
lore,
Yes.
what tracks on the album really stood out to you? I'm kind of curious to know, as like a
Mm.
longtime fan looking into like the mind
Mind of a newbie.
of like a new SPG fanboy born today.
I think Vice Does Tight is a really good way to start the album. I think listening to it after the second time was like, oh, okay, now I enjoy the Vice Does Tight because I know it comes back later on, and I know that. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way to start an album. It's a nice build with like all of the vocals coming in and the harmonies. I think that's real good. Um, I really enjoyed Steam Drunk. Steam Drunk was solid because that's
Oh, the story of Wink the satellite. It's a cute little
yeah,
friendo.
yeah. It's just I haven't and then like what else? What is with the satellite? Yeah, I didn't mind that one. I didn't mind that one. I like that it was just very much like we're just gonna sing about this little fella now, and then get back into it, and it's like burning in the stratosphere. Um, what was my favorite? I didn't like Gigi the Giraffe much. I think I mentioned that to you. I'm like, wait,
The song was kind of just light comedic relief. Like I said, at the end
yeah,
of the first part of Vice Quadrant
mm,
Part One
mm,
was essentially meant to be like, okay, just a little skit and then cut to intermission.
mm. Yeah, that's
So,
fair enough.
like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
proper viewing of the Vice Quadrant would be that you do take a little break at that point and then
right.
kind of jump back into it with, I think, part two starts with Soliton.
Yeah, after the pulls, so it goes to pulls and then
Oh, no,
Soliton.
no. Okay, so the Pulls
Yeah,
and then
he's like,
Soliton. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, which is another song that they reprise at least once more in the album.
Do they?
I do like how they reprise a couple of songs.
Mm,
The Vice Does Tight, of course.
yeah.
Hold Me, which was like Commander Walter's like character song as a bit,
Mm,
which is referenced in right before they set off in Fire. Right before Fire. What was that song?
That is burning in the stratosphere.
Yes, yes,
Oh, the
yes. So
first
they
one. Yeah, on the
reference
first
it
one.
at
Yeah,
the beginning of Burning in the Stratosphere. Then it gets its whole song in part two, and then it
mm,
gets referenced again multiple times in
yeah,
stuff surrounding the both Commander Cosmo as
mm.
well as when the soon to be Necrostar is flying around with the Daughter of Space. I know to pretty much anybody that's listening to this is just thinking this is just verbal diarrhea that doesn't make much sense. Trust me, when you listen to the album, you'll get it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. He's gonna. But yeah, I did look at the timeline. That helped out a lot. But yeah, I think yeah, overall there wasn't that many songs that really like stuck out to me completely. It was more like as a piece. Like I think like yeah, I think Steam Junk. I know it's yeah. I think I remember thinking Steam Junk sort of stayed in my mind for a lot longer after like listening to it. I just yeah
Well,
really
that's
enjoyed.
because
Yeah,
Hatchell's voice is great, and also the
yeah,
harmony on the
mm.
eyes. You know that I
Yeah,
like how they
yeah,
raised in pitch with every single person
yeah.
was. It's electric. Kind of almost gives you goose pimples. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and
just like wow.
I like how deep it is as well, where it's like and it comes through like I don't know like a massive bass line coming in, like, yeah, after little eyes coming in. It's yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was probably my favorite on the album, but I think I'm sure if I have more time thinking about it, I'm sure there will be other ones
Yeah,
to pop up.
the bloopy sci-fi instrumentals were also
Mm,
like super duper cool in this particular piece.
mm, yeah,
Defo really changed things up from
mm,
like I said, uh album one, 2 Cent Show.
yeah,
They very much had that vaudevillian style. They started barely breaking into like the more sci-fi stuff with Mach 3.
mm,
Um, but then they really kicked it up to like the next level in this album.
yeah, for sure. I really enjoy where they've gone. I think their most modern like interpretation of the band, where they are at now, I think is my favorite. I think the consistency, like 1896, is like my favorite album from them. I think that also maybe cool because that's the first album I listened to because I listened to the newest one first, and then I went back and listened to all the other ones.
There
But
is a certain attachment to like your first SPG album, undoubtedly.
I think so, yeah. And it's like you don't forget your first SPG album, you know what I mean? But like with
No, you just can't.
but like with the John stuff, like it wasn't really for me as much because yeah, it's what you were talking about. When you say like steampunky esque, it's sort of what I imagine it being, but also old
Mhm.
timey in a way. Um, but it's just where they're at now, and I think at also with the design of the robots, I really like Rabbit's design now. I think it's my favorite. It's the best she's ever looked with the like a lot more of the white instead of like in when she was with the Hatchworth sort of era. I think it looked a bit more like trying to look like copper and looked a bit more messy. I feel I don't know.
She had a
Presentation.
rusted copper design going on at the time.
There it is. Yeah, there it makes sense then.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah. I think just aesthetically, they're my favorite where they're at now. I love Zero's design. I love that he still has a big beard. He's got his big hair. And also
Yeah.
that their music is just, like their most recent album. I think is their most solid. But I know it's a bit of a hot take. But yeah, I don't know.
I
Just the
mean, no,
first.
it is a very solid album. It's very good. I
Mm,
can't wait for their seventh album. I'm very
yeah,
excited for it.
that's gonna be cool. We have to do like a listening party for it or something.
Oh, that'd be a good time.
That'll be good. That'll be good. But I love the fact that they like released. I think what were they doing? They were talking like hyping up this most recent album, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, it comes with all these acoustic tracks," and the spine saying all of these actual songs, and then like Bunny is like, "Oh yeah, and Fart Patrol" or something like that, and then it's like, "What? What do you mean Fart Patrol?" And it turns out it's an actual song they released and made a video for. It's so
All
good.
silly.
It's actually a banger as well. Like it goes hard. They're good. But yeah.
Um, let's see.
Yeah.
What other stuff is really worth mentioning regarding
Mm,
SPG? Oh yeah.
mm,
Now, one of their albums that doesn't get talked about as much because it's not one of their numbered series, and a lot of it is just like re-recordings of a lot of their older songs,
yeah.
was the album that they did for the video game
Mm,
SteamWorld Heist.
yes.
So they did have a couple of original tracks on that album as well,
Yeah,
which were
right.
really cool.
Mm,
Geez, let me see. let's see here. I need reference. I know there's like 4 or 5 of them. 1 second. Heist Ho. Prepare for boarding. The Red Queen.
Hmm. Well,
What we need are some heroes. Oh, such a good song. The Vast Frontier.
are they
Oh,
all originals, or are they all like the songs that they've redone? Because that's a lot.
so those all were originals from that particular album,
Wow.
but of course there's like
Yeah.
redone songs in there like,
Mm.
Honeybee,
Yeah.
Brass Goggles,
Yeah. Right.
Electricity's in My Soul, Automatonic Electronic Harmonics.
Mm. Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's such an easy
Mm.
title to say.
Oh, easily. Yeah, of course. Everyone can say it right. I can say it right if
Automaton
they
is
want.
just an easy word in general. Nobody ever fumbles over automatons, the easiest word.
Automaton. God damn it. It's cool to just see him consistently just go and then grow as well. Like, and just, I don't know, and evolve with time. It's very interesting to see. It's cool.
It's neat to see, especially when you're just getting in, but like
Mm.
if you like became a fan and then you get to see like what subsequent works they're putting out afterwards and
Right.
like seeing
Yeah.
the growth throughout the years, that is so cool to see. Like
Yeah.
I remember being so scared when I heard like, oh no, Hatchworth is leaving the band. Oh no, who could ever replace him? That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like a ridiculous idea. So like at the back of my mind, I kind of had like this nagging little feeling in the background, like, yeah, no, whoever this third guy is gonna be, he's not gonna be very
Gonna
good. He's
suck.
not gonna match up with Hatchworth.
Yeah.
Impossible. But
Yeah.
Zero came out and just hammered down all my thoughts. Like
Mm.
all my doubts were immediately dispelled. It was like, wow, perfect fit.
Yeah.
Another cog seamlessly got slipped into this well-oiled machine.
Yeah, yeah, and it's yeah, and they make him fit into the band so well and so amazing. Like, it is a different band with Zero in it. Is a different band than what it was with Hatchworth or with John. The John, sorry, I keep calling him just John, but no, the John. Thank you. I don't want to be disrespectful to the man, but there's a very different
It's not
band.
just John, he
It's
is
not just
the John.
the John. Get it right, mate. Or the John will be at my doorstep, knocking it down of his robot powers. What is the John doing? So Hatchworth is goldfishing. What is the John doing in storyline?
I don't really recall. I
I
don't
wonder.
really know what happened with the John. He might have just wandered off, I
Just
think.
one day he's just like, all right, man.
That's very in character for him too, because he was definitely the wackiest member of the trio at the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like the zaniest feller who would just kind of go do nonsensical things. I think it was went to go travel the world or
Mm.
something like that.
Just as you do. Yeah.
I don't really recall.
No, but yeah, it's but thank you for doing this, Fee. I know, like, yeah, like hopping on to a podcast like this and sort of talking about a band, it can be a bit like stressful, I think. But thank you so much for spending your time and like
Oh no, I
doing
spent
this
my
with me.
whole week so stoked, excited for this big event.
Well, I hope I've done it justice. I'm stressed now. A good thing you told me that at the end. Hopefully.
Oh no no no! Like the entire time, I've loads of fun talking like just music with you in general, but
Mm,
talking Steam Powered Giraffe, a band that I'm actually extremely passionate about,
mm,
and like I just love so much about their art. I was so stoked, so I was immersing myself more so than
yeah.
usual into almost exclusively only Steam Powered Giraffe content for like the entirety of the week, just leading up to this event, just getting so hyped, excited about it, so ready to just talk robots.
Well, it's yeah. It's thank you for showing me them as well. Like, it's such yeah. It's such an amazing band, and I'm so happy to sort of be in this steam powered giraffe family now. And I'm so excited to see where they go and like listening to a lot more stuff. Like, yeah, but it's
They're
yeah.
so niche and small, but
Mm,
deserve so much more credit, I feel.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm for sure, and I'm sure they'll get there sooner or later. I'm sure they will, and I'm sure they'll get to
Oh yeah.
Australia one day. I'm believing. One day, hopefully.
Someday they'll be in your neck of the woods.
Please come to Sydney. But no, it's but thank you. And also, we should probably mention at the end of the episode, I guess. But we both. This is my first episode live on Twitch, so thank you for doing that with me because this has been a different dynamic to what I'm used to. So thank you for taking this plunge with me, Fee. It's very polite of you.
I'm more than happy to. I mean, if anybody is going to like, be joining alongside you for like the first
Mm,
streamed interview, it makes
yes.
sense to
Yeah.
find a fellow person who's used to the stream format, I'd say.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
like, I mean, the episode of Jams that you filmed with your pops, that probably would have been a little awkward for him and like,
Yeah.
being live streamed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And with his like face as well as like all the camera going on as well. Like, yeah,
Right, yeah,
he
yeah.
wouldn't have messed with that one bit. We would have had to get him an avatar too or something like that. Which one day, hopefully, I'll get one as well, and that'll be fun to have every once in a while, just like animated J-Man popping in. One day, one day. But no, yeah,
Someday.
someday.
We'll
That's it.
convert you yet.
You convert me. But yeah, also thank you. I know it doesn't have much to do with the album, but like we've both started sort of streaming about the same time. What I started streaming in August, you're in September, I think. Is that all the other way around? Was it one of us?
It might have been, let's see,
It was
after
around the same time.
July.
Yeah.
After July, so August. Yeah, yeah, I think it might have been August as
Oh,
well.
okay, so we're both August. There you go. So I think it was just
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was very lucky to meet a fellow streamer like you. Sort of, we both started at the same time. We've both been on this journey together so far. So thank you so very much, Pete, for you're always everybody watching or hearing this. Like I'm always sending every idea I have to Pete first. To be like, hey, is this garbage? Like
It is
this
good
background
sounding, boy.
you see is like I showed Fee me like workshopping this first and like everything. So thank you for what you do because you're always there and you're always around Discord and chat and hanging out and just being a good old friend. So thank you, Fee, for what you do. Yeah.
I'm very happy and lucky and feel so
Mm,
fortunate to have been able to like, be with this community from its inception and kind of
mm,
watch it grow
mm.
over like the last almost year. It hasn't even been a full freaking year.
It
That's
hasn't,
crazy.
right? How?
Like
Yeah.
defo fast friendship with you,
Mm,
of course,
mm.
and just generally getting like the opportunity to like just vibe and talk music or talk other things or really any little random thing going on. And I will say, like,
Mm.
let's take this opportunity to kind of promote your streamy stuff as well, because your streams are always such a joy to watch, and you
Oh,
got
thank
great personality and vibes there. And for anybody listening to jams exclusively, I'll let y'all know, like, Mr. J-Man here, he's not just a one-trick pony. He doesn't just talk music. He's well beyond that. He's a rootin' tootin' his cowboy in the West, I'll have you
I
know.
am.
He's
Yeehaw, baby. Oh no! Hey, also yourself. You gotta promote yourself here, Fee. Best promo in the game. You gotta give yourself a
okay,
shout
okay,
out.
okay, okay, okay. Well, for those wondering
Here
where
we
to
go.
catch more Fee content, you can catch me, Fee, on twitch.tv/VVT featuring me, Fee. Let's go. The
Yay!
VT stands for YouTuber because, as you can tell, I'm not just a flesh and blood human like the rest of you losers out there. I am a kawaii anime personage here for you, entertainment, and mine.
Your promo work is amazing. I don't think I'm ever gonna get that good at it. That is high tier. Well, I think yeah. Is there anything else you want to mention before we just start watching some YouTube videos and stuff like that? Are you happy with
Uh,
everything?
uh, People of the internet, this is your calling. Check out SPG,
Mhm.
Steam Powered Giraffe. Let's go,
Mhm.
go, go.
Mhm. Yeah, please do, please do. But not a band, just nothing else like them. You will love a couple tracks. I'm sure of it if you spend enough time listening to them and fall in love with the characters like I did, and Fee already has. You know, you go into a good place. That's it. It's yeah. Where would you think would be a good starting point for someone trying to listen to Steam Powered Giraffe?
You got to start with their hits.
Yeah,
That's
fair.
that's just where it is.
Yep.
Honeybee is the best
Mhm.
introductory course for this full
Yes.
meal that you'll be devouring.
It's a three course, mate. It's a three. It's
Yeah, yeah. You
you'll
got
be
honeybee
full.
for your appetizer.
Yep.
Then you could just move in for the full course meal, which is the Vice Quadrant. And then
Yep.
for dessert, why don't you just enjoy some good old 1896?
There you go. There you go. You get everything. You get the fast, the broad strokes of steam powered giraffe.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, thank you again, Fee. We're gonna leave it there for today, I guess, at least for the jam section of the stream. But yeah, cool. Howdy everyone, Modern G-Man. That recording was about a year ago now, I think. So we finally got it done, edited it. So yeah, if you thank you for first off, thank you for listening to I think what an hour and 20 or whatever this recording ended up being. The full version will be available in the description on my VOD channel. So that'll be the full thing. If you don't want it to cut off there and you want to see what we got up to after that little section, head over there. If you want a shorter version when you're on the run, I don't know why you would look at that now after spending an hour and a half, but you know, you never know. It'll be available on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that stuff. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for Fee for hopping on that episode with me. I don't know where Jams is right now. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know if there'll be an episode coming out soon. I don't have anything planned. We'll see how it goes. But for now, I'll be live on Twitch at Twitch /TheJMansky. And also follow Fee if you haven't heard. If you've listened to an hour and a half of me and Fee talking about Steam Powered Giraffe without checking out Fee's channels yet, like, come on now, what are you doing? So that'll be twitch.com/FeeVT. There you go. Off the dome, baby. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more jams, I'll link the playlists below my other 11 episodes. And yeah, anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you again, Fee, and have a lovely afternoon, everyone. Bye.